Recording in progress.
Okay, we will start with the meditation. Please come to a comfortable posture, and gently close your eyes. Bring your body to a resting position. With the next sound, transcend any worries, concerns, fears from this day. Take a deep breath in, bringing your shoulders all the way up and dropping your shoulders as you breathe out. Bring your shoulders all the way up. Breathe in and drop your shoulders. Once again, breathe in and breathe out. Feel your lungs getting fresh air, the shrinking experience, the expansion, all of that is happening now. Bring your neck to a aligned position with your spine and your shoulders at ease. Allow the rhythm of your in-breath and out-breath be revealed to your awareness. And the wisdom that this breath is happening now without you doing it is enough. To ground ourselves further in the present moment, let us scan our bodies, head to toes, starting with your face, putting a gentle smile to your lips, to your heart, to your mind, with loving kindness. With the mind imbued with loving kindness, you may anytime change your posture lovingly and kindly to your body. And then you come back to these steps of breathing in and out, body scanning, and observing the mind. Now scan also your forehead, and that means you release any tension, any tightness in there. Release any tension, any tightness from your eyes, not looking, not trying to look, not trying to squeeze your eyes. You also release and relax any tension from your head, also the back of your head. Now your neck, now your shoulders, see the rhythm of your shoulders rising and falling with each and every single breath. You stop and pause there and observe. And now relax your chest, your elbows, your palms, your hands. Allow them to rest. Any bodily pain arising, take loving action to make sure that you are sitting comfortably, which is very key to a rising of tranquility in your mind. Continue scanning your body further, your belly, the entire abdomen, muscles, your sitting bones, your knees, your shin bones, your ankles, the soles of your feet, your toes, and your entire body as one unit, relaxed. Release any tension, any tightness out into the space. Now you are like a tree getting deeply rooted to the ground below, like a statue that does not move. You remain centered here and now, observing things that come and go through your sensory experience. Your attention may go to your breathing, to sounds, to your thoughts, mainly. Let us observe our experience through the view of the six sense faculties in this meditation. There is no seeing because our eyes are closed. There is much hearing from the outside world, but we don't pay much attention to them. They come and go without you doing. Those sounds come and they go away. So you see some arising and cessation without a self involvement. Just they come, they go away. No sense of smell, no sense of taste, and the physical body, when relaxed, there's not much disturbance from there, and the mind has thoughts that come and go. So the goal here is to center our awareness in just what is happening now. With the goal of cultivating proper wisdom. Whenever you find yourself being distracted, how about coming back to your experience of breathing? It's called bodily formation, kaya sankhara, and it is happening not in the past, not in the future, but right now. It has no color, no shape, so it would be easier to focus on your breath from now on. So you are breathing in and breathing out, and your mind is present with that experience. Take delight in that experience. Notice the nature of your breath. Sometimes it is long, sometimes it is short. See if you can catch these nuances, subtleties, changes. as they happen. Apply the presence of your mind to these little changes happening. Always keep your attention on your breath with no stress, just very gentle focus here. No looking, no bodily movements, just observing your breath. What a delightful experience this is to observe your breath. See the entire body with which is involved with your breathing experience. Shoulders, the upper body's movements. Every time you notice that you are thinking or distracted with something, come back to your breath. See the tranquility arising. Make room for that tranquility. The quiet, expansive energy flow. With effort, you can contain that energy within you. Mind gets free from so many thoughts, and your brain begins to cool down. Also, your nervous system. When the breath becomes subtle, however subtle it is, notice it. And the breath almost disappear, body remains bodily, breathing gently happens. Notice these changes. And the breath comes back, loud and clear sometimes, in simple terms, and notice this. But your mind is at peace. Mind opens like layer by layer, like a lotus which has petals exposed to the weather conditions, dust, and so on, just like the mind. But these inner layers of the mind, like in a lotus, has color, fragrance, something delicate about it. Allow it to be opened just by keeping this connection with mindfulness and breathing. When you think about the past, you think about it now. When you think about the future, you think about it now. All we have is now. So we are not losing anything here. We are just here in the now. When you hear the gong, you can come out of the meditation. How was the meditation? Good? From the rain or from the thoughts? With your thoughts. Yeah, that happens. I had a good meditation. Uh, some days I get too many thoughts. Some days I just can go directly into the meditation. So, welcome to the meditation club. It's always like that. So let's try to do some reading. Let's see if we can make sense of this a little bit. If not, we can, because we have been reading this book for 2 days in the past. And let's see, I want you to go to page 10. And I know the printing cut off, but let me share the screen. Mm, Nicole missed the last one, so um, let's see. It's 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 a very dense reading. As uh, as we will start, you will feel the density of it, and you can ignore. Um, so something interesting from last week is the resurrection of the tiger by the magician. So a magician goes into the forest and see these bones and resurrects the tiger out of the bones, and this tiger ends up eating the magician. And the author, Venerable Katukurunde Gnanananda, says this is like the mental proliferations in our mind that we resurrect in our own mind, and these mental proliferations end up consuming us, eating us, and exerting us, giving us commands, and also uh, creating a false view of a self and views and cravings and conceits and egos and a lot more. So, what we are trying to do perhaps is to get to the bones and see how to not resurrect the tiger out of the bones. So, with that in mind, we will try to read. And you can join me in reading, uh, except for the parts that are cut off, you will have to excuse me for that. Triple proliferation in thought. In order to locate the deeper psychological mainsprings of proliferations, we have to turn our attention to the Buddha's brief discourse set out above. There it is said that if one does not delight in or assert or cling to that which entails subjection to papancha sanya sankha, one would be released from all proclivities towards evil mental states. So here it is talking about proclivities towards evil mental states. This is where suffering can arise in us because we have evil tendencies. Evil does not mean that we are mean to someone or anything. We are just seeing the unwholesome side of these mental states where there's greed, hatred, and delusion, things that trigger us. As we have already indicated, yato nidanam, these are Pali words, invariably refers to the first part of the formula of sense perception bounded by its correlative tato nidanam. What one should neither delight in, nor assert, nor cling to, is this very process of sense perception, which comprehends from the cognitive point of view that totality of the five aggregates themselves. And the expressions, we need to read the next line to make sense. The expressions delighted in, asserting, and clinging to correspond respectively to tanha, craving, man, conceit, and ditti, views, bound up with the notions of I and mine. So you can see the view of self with the concept of I and mine. I take that thought as my thought, this feeling as my feeling, and we don't know any other way of being because we haven't done any examination to really see the mechanism behind the origin of I and mine, or the conceit, the craving, and also the clinging. So it mentioned the five aggregates. Um, these are just, this is a different way to introduce us beings to the world. Instead of saying my name, I would say Kusala, the five aggregates. The five aggregates constitute of form, feelings, perceptions, volitional formations and consciousness. And these forms is the physical body where the experience manifests, which has the four elements, and also the forms that we see and the sounds we hear. These are also forms that they are called sound forms in Buddhist language, and smells, tastes, mental forms, bodily experiences, the skin contacts. These are also called forms. So that we have so many of those then. And then feelings are just pleasant, unpleasant, neutral feelings. We have trillions of those. And perceptions, we see colors, we see patterns, we see a lot, we perceive things. This is another aggregate. And then we see volitional formations. We construct conclusions about people, about food, about various objects, and we visualize a thing that does not exist. So there's volitional formations that happen, thoughts being formed. And then consciousness, eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nasal, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, mind consciousness, 6 classes of consciousness. That is also an aggregate. But these are not the problem. The problem is clinging to any of these. And the example would be, a good example would be a pleasant feeling. We visualize a person that we want to spend time with. There is a pleasant feeling that we want to manifest more in our being. And now clinging is arising in us. But we ignore that because ignorance is a blessing to us, that we don't want the truth be told to us. We want to delight in the not knowing and just delight in what is here, knowing that we can just engage in these aggregates and continue on living. And that's how we have been building an image of ourselves and continuing to live. So what it says here is the what one should neither delight in, nor assert, nor cling to. So this is the 5 aggregates that we should not take delight in, nor cling to, because they are, the clinging brings a lot of suffering. Because of clinging, suffering arises. So let's continue a little bit. And the way the author, Venerable Katukurunde Gnanananda, connects the expressions from the suttas, delighted in, asserting, and clinging to, the 3 things here. So delighted in connects with the craving, asserting connects with the conceit, and clinging to connects with the views. When someone has a certain view, let's take the last one, the view of a higher being, or a view of annihilation, view of eternity or something, people tend to cling to these and defend these views, especially among the religious leaders or religious teachers at the time of the Buddha. These were being discussed all the time. So the Buddha had to respond to these false views. And let's read a little bit. Bound up with this, the notions of I and mine. And then he starts to talk about language, the abstractness of the language in the coming parts. I lost it here. Okay. This marks, so let's read from there. This marks the intrusion of the ego into the field of sense perception. So, in the field of sense perception, which is seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, physical sensations, and thinking, there is the intrusion of the ego. The, in fact, from the worldling's point of view, it is no intrusion at all, for the subject object relationship is regarded by him as of the very essence of cognition. So the subject is the person here, object is eye, ear, nose, tongue, and what you attract to eye, ear, nose, tongue. So there is a me creation in that experience. The self is created in that experience. I hope you can follow me. As portrayed by Mahakachana's formula, the latent illusion of the ego awakens at the stage of feelings, and thereafter the vicious duality is maintained until it is fully crystallized and justified at the conceptual level. So let me explain what the feeling part he talks about here. Um, so there is a formula that he presented earlier based on the Honeyball Sutta, where the Buddha talks about the the experience of a human. He begins by dependent on the eye and objects that we see, there's eye consciousness. And meeting of the three is called contact. And with contact, there is feelings. Until then, it is just a mechanism, just like the matrix, just the process. But then what one feels, the word one comes there. What one feels, one perceives. This is where um, this rolling of a being, one, happens. Until then, it was just the objects working. See, what one feels begins to unfold a notion of a self here. You get it? Let's. This is what he's pointing at here. So, if you want, you can read as portrayed by Mahakachana's formula, because Mahakachana is the one who expands what the Buddha told in brief in the Honeyball Sutta. The latent illusion of the ego awakens at the stage of feelings, Vedana, like what one feels, one perceives. And what one perceives, one proliferates. That is what the sutta was talking, formula was talking about. And thereafter, the vicious duality is maintained until it is fully crystallized and justified at the conceptual level. Thus, what has been a complex, conditionally arisen process tends to be resolved into a direct relationship between the ego and the non-ego. So the non-ego, as I believe in this context, is just the process before the one feels part, because dependent on the eye, dependent on the ear, dependent on the nose, always there is objects manifesting and we are cognizing, and there is a feeling, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral feeling that arises. And what we added into that discussion also is uh, in the Buddha's time, when they practiced meditation, they avoided the pleasant feelings because sensuality is something they wanted to avoid. They thought that's the wrong way. And they also tried to avoid unpleasant feelings, or they did to the fullest of it by self mortification. It's unpleasant feeling to torture your body. And then by torturing, they wanted to come to the end of it and be free from that too. And those who did not want to do that, they took neutral feelings as the escape, such as the ones like the former teachers of the ascetic Gautama, Alarakalam, they took the neutral feeling as the escape. So when they practiced meditation, they took the extreme levels of equanimity, like nothingness, or neither perception nor non-perception, as an escape. And they glued their mind to those states. And this is when the Buddha was needed in the world. That which they took as the escape is not the escape, and that too is conditioned. The Buddha said, see the underlying tendency to not knowing or ignorance in that escape. That's a slightly different way to interpret what the Buddha actually may have tried to teach. Let's read a little bit more and then I will open it up for questions. Thus, now this is an oversimplification of facts characteristic of the realm of language as well as of our way of thought. The label I, thus superimposed on the complex and contingent process, serves as a convenient fiction of thought or a shorthand device, and is in fact one of the shortest words in many a language. But paradoxically enough, it is the outcome of papancha, the proliferations. So rather a disconcerting predicament. The word I that we see is the shortest, but it is also a proliferation, mental proliferation. Okay, let's let's see how much more this goes. We can read to the end of that passage. The paradox is resolved by the fact that the ego notion is an extension in thought, not faithful to facts, being a mental aberration of the worldling. Here we see a curious distinction between the relative meanings attached to proliferations, mental proliferations, when it is used with reference to the verbal and the mental realms, respectively. Such shorthand devices as technical terms or code words in a language help us to avoid verbal proliferations, but inasmuch as they are evolved through a complex process of activity, thought activity that may be said to presuppose a good deal of mental proliferations. So verbal proliferations and mental proliferations. So these are uh, so verbal is mostly spoken language. We use I, we use me, mine, and mentally we have concepts developed. Um, if you listen to the Indian guru, Sadhguru, he says life is all about conclusions. People have conclusions about everything, about certain food, experiences, about me, about everybody here. And it may not be true to the actual experience of a being. I think we can never conclude a person, come to a conclusion about a person. We don't have the full picture, and no one, I think, can do that. Uh, and to know that these are all false, there is some liberating some some insight of it, that I don't have to own any of these wrongdoings I did, mistakes I did. I don't have to blame me. And also, I don't have to suffer with certain experiences. That knowing the truth behind this mechanism helps us to just at least slowly drop the suffering aspect of it. But it does not mean that we don't have any pain. Even those enlightened ones, they had bodily pain, but mentally they did not um, proliferate that pain, if that is the right word, I don't know. Or they did not multiply that pain to be my pain. They saw it as the pain arising and vanishing. They did not bring the ego into it, I-ness into it. Um, and another monk, Bhante Gunaratan, I was there at his center 2 weeks ago. He wrote this article, Onion is Born. Um, if you visualize an onion, it has this no essence. There's nothing to be found when you peel the onion. So it's a nice metaphor, but he was thinking something else. Um, he wanted to look at the word on, I, on, and he put on, uh, one on to be the father of I, and the other on to be the mother of I. So this father is ignorance, not knowing this mechanism. Mother is craving. So these two, from when the child I is born, continuously guard, protect, and sit closely, making sure I never escapes the sight of theirs. So he he wrote this article. Onion is born to this article collection that symposium I read about 12 years ago in Sri Lanka, and I was fascinated with the creativity of it. So that's what we are talking about. The way the mind gets into all kinds of suffering because of craving and ignorance and building of a notion of I which does not exist. All right, I should stop talking. Any questions? I actually tried to get the printout right, and you see how many times I tried here. This I had to trash, and still it went wrong. Any questions or anything to share, or should we stop? Share merits. Anyone from Zoom? I saw Nicole turning off video as soon as. No, I will not be asking direct questions. It's
Oh,
it's a
can you hear me?
yes.
I had a question about, sorry, there's like an echo. Mm. So if everything is filtered through the emotion, would there be a hierarchy within emotions of like safer emotions to cultivate and practice?
Um, what emotions to cultivate? Can you say that again?
Sorry, it's difficult to speak with the echo.
No, I want to
Um,
respond to exactly what you asked without just
yeah.
coming to a conclusion of what you asked.
Oh yeah. No, it sounds like from the reading that
Yeah.
the trouble begins with emotion. And so
You
if
mean
my
the
understanding
feelings?
feelings, yeah.
Hmm.
Would
So,
there be a strategy
yeah.
to focus on certain feelings over others
Um,
to situate yourself more
that's a
for
great
success, I
question.
guess?
That's a great question. I think what the Buddha wants us to do is um, to understand the truth behind all feelings. And by that, I mean whether it is pleasant or unpleasant, you have equanimity towards it. Whether it is pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, unbearable, or difficult, it does not matter. You have the knowledge, the true knowledge about these feelings, and this he labeled as knowing the truth, which is which has a liberating effect on the being. The preference, yes, there is the meditation practice of loving kindness, equanimity, joy cultivation, and when you try to cultivate them, they don't last forever. So knowing that about them, the impermanence, the cessation of them, and that too will help us on the path so that we don't always suffer with that duality that, oh, I should be sticking with only the pleasant feelings or pleasant emotions. That is impossible for us because when the Buddha, for example, when he got sick, um, he had bodily pain and he instructed Chunda, a monk attendant, to remind him of or recite the 7 factors of awakening, which is about mindfulness, investigating the mental experience, bringing energy, bringing tranquility, bringing um, composure and equanimity. All these are possible only with true insight about any feeling. It does not matter what it is. So he categorized them into 3 kinds: the pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral, and asked us in one sutta, 148, in middle length discourses to pay attention to their underlying tendencies. So pleasant feelings have lust, sleeping there. Unpleasant feelings have aversion, sleeping there. And neutral feelings have ignorance, sleeping under. So he asks us to catch them so that you are not getting fooled anywhere thinking that I owe this or I own this and this is my feeling, or that kind of mental conclusion that does not exist. But we can, in the practice, we can stay on the Eightfold Path and cultivate positive feelings, and that is always encouraged. But developing wisdom along with that also is encouraged. Otherwise, when you lose the pleasant feeling, you will start to worry and suffer. Oh, I lost my feeling. There's no I to lose that feeling to begin with in the first place. So that is what he looked at. I hope I did not add too more, or I did not confuse us more. You are muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
No, that's wonderful. I do have one follow-up question,
Mm-hmm.
probably because I'm beginner and not fully understanding.
We all are beginners here.
So how would gratitude factor in with that?
Yeah, gratitude, I believe, is always part of Buddhism, that people show gratitude to the Buddha by offering even meals now to the Buddha statue out of gratitude. So the Buddha said the best way to offer gratitude is to practice and understand the teachings. So yes, gratitude practice is very important, and we can always keep a practice of like daily practice of gratitude. When you wake up in the morning, you always list down 3 things you are grateful for every day, and so you cultivate some positivity in the language, in the living, and uh, and there is also wisdom of how gratitude arising based on conditions and how it vanishes when conditions vanish. So you remain an observer without getting caught up with the suffering when gratitude disappears. You can always cultivate it. It's like a it's like gardening. Every season you have to plow and do the gardening, and so you get the fruits every season. It takes time. All right. So anything else, or should we share merits? Okay. Let's join our palms together and share merits. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired. manifestation of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power share this merit of ours. May they long protect you and protect the teachings. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay. Good night, everyone.